As determined by Glamorgan Spring Bay Council in April 2017, all ordinary and special meetings of Council are to be audio-visually recorded and streamed live. A link is available on the Glamorgan Spring Bay Council website to the YouTube platform where the public can view the meeting live and watch recordings of previous Council meetings. In accordance with the Local Government Act 1993 and Regulation 33, these video-audio files will be retained by Council for at least 6 months and made available for viewing live as well as online within 5 days of the scheduled meeting. The written minutes of a meeting, once confirmed, prevail over the video-audio recording of the meeting. Welcome councillors, staff and members of the public, and I declare the meeting open at 2:03 p.m. The Glamorgan Spring Bay Council acknowledges the traditional owners of our region and recognises their continuing connection to land, waters and culture. We pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. This afternoon we have Deputy Mayor Woods, Councillors Browning, Pike, Arnold and Simons and myself present, and an apology from Councillor Brenning and Councillor Churchill. In attendance we have the General Manager, Mr Schroeder, and Executive Officer,
Tracy Higgins.
Ms Higgins. Oh, and Council's Planner, Miss Bevilacqua. I'm getting better at that. I request elected members to indicate whether they have 1, any interest, personally or via a close associate, as defined in section 49 of the Local Government Act 1993, or 2, any conflict as described in Council's Code of Conduct for Councillors in any item included in the agenda. Councillor Arnold?
I've lodged a declaration of interest in 7.2, Prosser Plains Raw Water.
Deputy Mayor?
Yes, I've lodged a pecuniary interest in 7.2, Prosser Plains Raw Water Scheme.
Thank you.
Now,
I've just done, that's one of my closed, please.
yes, Mayor, that I'd like to move a motion that an item be added to the agenda, and that is to allow Miss Mason to talk about the Statement of Expectations Committee, and to...
Would you like to do those separately?
Yes, of course, yes.
Just to make it
Sure.
clear.
Madam Mayor, I had a conflict in 3.2.
Oh, sorry.
3.2. Thanks, Councillor Simons. And would you like to just read what you're moving again,
Yes.
that first item?
To allow Miss Mason to talk about the Statement of Expectations Committee.
I'll second.
Councillor Arnold seconded.
It's got to be an absolute majority.
Sorry,
It's got to be an absolute majority.
you understand that I'm about to... Does anyone have any questions on that request or that motion? It's clear what it's about. Okay, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? It's unanimous, thank you. Now that will come in at item...
1.5.
Okay. And your second?
The second one is to allow council to resolve, just one moment, sorry, I've got to find 216. That council resolves in section, item number 6.1, section 24 committees, that council resolves that the Statement of Expectations be a special committee of council under section 24 of the Local Government Act 1993.
So that is a motion. That, so you'll, is it
That's to
basically...
be included in, it's a late agenda item under section 6,
Okay,
so it's a late agenda item.
so at this point, that's your request that is
That is,
included?
yes.
So is it therefore that council considers... Is it like a consideration or is it a statement?
It's,
at this point?
it's to resolve, because it's actually happening. Oh God, have we got the heaters on? Sorry.
Sorry. So the item that you wish to add is for council to consider the committee to become a special committee of council.
That's
That's
correct.
the agenda item, isn't it?
That's correct.
And when you get there, you're going to move that motion?
Yes.
Yep.
But that's including it in the agenda as a motion,
Correct, yep.
as a late agenda item.
So what's your title of your late agenda item? That whole?
That whole, yep.
Okay.
It's ridiculous.
Can you just double check that air conditioner because it is really hot in here.
I'm not getting any breeze
No.
here.
I'll get someone to look at it. I also just need to clarify that motion to excuse me.
Jenny, could you pass me that? Or just pass? It's really.
Oh, it's to allow council to resolve. So
Mhm.
I think it is to allow council to resolve.
Mm-hmm.
Just, yeah, just that part.
Sorry, can
To hear. Yep. Okay. So can I just, oh yeah, if you type it and then you can confirm what's written as to what your request is. And while this is happening, councillor Browning, you were looking at the
I was.
the other one which we could bring in at
In,
this point, but after this is dealt with, we could bring in that.
And then I left it at home. Mayor Wisby.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Councillor Arnold, could you just read that so I don't have to quiz?
The motion is to allow council to resolve that the Statement of Expectations Committee be a special committee of council. I'm thinking that perhaps it should say that council allow a late agenda item at section 6.
Yep.
Because that's what we're trying to do right now.
That's correct.
Put it into the agenda. So I think there needs to be some words in there that says that council,
Council accepts a late agenda item
Yep.
to
yeah, council
resolve.
accepts a late agenda item.
To consider the Statement of Expectations Committee to become a special committee of council or something. Is that okay with you?
Ms Higgins, I think it should say that council accepts a late agenda item to consider the statement of expectation becomes a special committee of council at agenda item 6.
Just at the start.
After council at agenda
Just at the
items.
start. Instead of to allow, just that council.
That council. I think that's,
At item.
6.1.
yeah. As item 6.1 or something.
As
Is that,
Yep.
I'd second.
I'll second that,
Councillor Arnold,
to allow it to come in.
any questions in respect to why that agenda item is there?
No questions. Three in there. No questions at this point if there's going to be question time at that item time. That's right?
Move to
Yeah, thank
discuss
you.
it.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
clarifying that for
absolutely,
me.
yes.
Thank you very
Yes,
much.
certainly.
Then there's no questions now.
Okay,
Thank
so
you.
I'll put that motion. All those in favour? That's unanimous, thank you.
And look,
Councillor Browning?
through the mayor, the confidential items need to, I thought could go in after, well, we need to go into confidential to deal with these, so we could put them in.
So you're referring to consider the minutes of the closed session on the 17th of December 2019?
That's correct, and the
And
minutes of the special on the 14th of January 2020. No, she's still finishing the last.
Okay.
Yeah. The confidential, yeah.
Closed.
As late reports, is that, as late reports?
Late items,
Item.
yeah.
Is that,
That council accept the confidential minutes of the ordinary meeting of council on the 17th of December 2019 and the confidential minutes of the special meeting of council on the 14th of January 2020 as late items on the agenda.
Great, somebody to second that?
Yeah.
Councillor Simons, any comment? That motion, all in favour? Sorry, and that'll come in under item 11. Oh, and we've got one more. This late one that we've been handed.
Roads to recovery, isn't it?
Yeah. So that would require a motion to put that. If anyone would like to move.
Yeah. I'll move that the late agenda item report roads to recovery allocation for 2019, 2020 be added as an agenda item.
Included in this agenda, yep. As item 7.11. Did we just have a 7.11? No, we haven't.
7.11.
Yeah, 7.11.
7.11. So, that the late agenda item report roads to recovery allocation 2019-20 be included as item 7.11 on the agenda.
Councillor Pike to second that.
Yes, I'll second that.
Any questions? I'll put that motion. All those in favour? It's unanimous, thank you. Any further? Item 2, confirmation of minutes, 2.1, ordinary meeting of council December 17, 2019. Could I have a motion, please?
I'll move that the minutes of the ordinary meeting of council held Tuesday the 17th of December at 5 p.m. be confirmed as a true and correct record.
Somebody to second? Councillor Browning. Councillor Browning.
Through the mayor, on page 23, I've just got some, not very many. On page 23, the second line, meeting of council dates as, not are. Meeting of council dates as the 4th Tuesday of each month.
Instead of where it says are.
Yeah.
You've
Yes, I
You
listened,
listened to the
yeah,
audio.
I went back through the 2 hours and 44 minutes of it.
Any further?
Yes,
Yeah,
Oh,
just,
sorry.
sorry.
Yeah, I've got one more. Page 48. The questions without notice. Mayor Wisby advised Councillor Browning and Churchill and herself attended a morning tea. So,
Instead of where it says Mayor Wisby attended a morning tea, you'd like to say Mayor Wisby advised Councillor Brown and Churchill herself attended a morning tea.
yeah, and also add in where, thank you very much for the book. Could we add the name of the book, because you mentioned the name of the book and I Could you look it up? I didn't actually write that.
Sure.
And the Mayor Wisby advised she attended the end of year assembly at the Orford Primary School and Swansea Primary. It wasn't Tribunna. Tribunna was like the beginning of December. It was Swansea Primary School. And presented retiring principals with flowers.
Yes.
So the Tribunna.
Is that?
And sorry, going back to the next one, you said general manager and not GM. The general manager will send the Historical Society a thank you letter. Sorry, I've
Just
Oh, okay.
presented the retiring principals with flowers to get rid of the sum. And then back up there. Yeah,
Any further?
no,
Councillor Arnold?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. There's just a minor correction on page 38 in decision 250/19 and 251/19. It says the motion was put and carried unanimously. However, there's only 6 councillors listed in the 4 in both circumstances. Councillor Simons and Councillor Arnold seem to have been missed off.
Oh.
I'm fairly confident we were here.
It says 8. Okay, and I have one on page, oh, it's wait for you to be ready. You ready? On page 6, it says, Deputy Mayor Jenny Woods declared an interest in item 8.10 and 8.11. At that point in the meeting, the declaration wasn't done on 8.11. It was done during discussions on page 41 under 8.11.
That's correct.
So that declaration should go on page 41, not at the beginning, because that's not where it was declared.
oh yeah,
41.
On page 41, yes. And at the bottom of page 6, it was said there that council notes this information in respect to the workshops. That little box has been left off the minutes. I think that's all. No other comments? No. So, getting back to Deputy Mayor Woods and Councillor Browning, you're okay with those changes?
Yes, thank you.
Yes. Okay, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Unanimous, thank you. 2.2, special meeting of council, January 14th, 2020. Could I have a motion, please? Councillor Browning?
that the minutes of the ordinary meeting of council held Tuesday the 14th of January 2020 at 2 p.m. be confirmed as a true and correct record.
Thank you. Somebody to second that, please. Deputy Mayor Woods. Open for discussion? Nothing. We'll put the motion. All those in favour?
Sorry, should it read the special minutes, not the ordinary meeting of council?
Yes.
Very good.
Councillor Browning, you happy with that? Deputy Mayor Woods, you are,
Yes.
you brought it up?
Yep.
I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Councillor Pike, you in favour?
Sorry.
Yep. Thank you. Unanimous. No, it's fine. Planning Authority section, under regulate. Oh, did we miss? Sorry, we missed, gotta go. Sorry, Ms Mason, I missed you. Would you like to come forward? Well, yeah, we'll just pop you in now. Would you like to come forward to the table?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My name's Lynn Mason and I'm an ex-mayor myself and ex-president of the Local Government Association, and I still do quite a lot of work with local government. I have been asked as a result of a resolution by Glamorgan Spring Bay Council to participate in a process of drawing up a statement of expectations. And along with me there is also an ex-general manager to bring the other side of things into perspective as well. And his name is Greg Priest, and he's an ex-general manager from Meander Valley Council and also Dorset before that, man of many years' experience. A statement of expectations is a quite high-level document, but it talks about the way people expect to interact with each other. It's over and beyond what the Act says about what you have to do. It goes beyond that. It talks about proper behaviour that leads to a respectful and high-functioning organisation. Many councils, many organisations have them. That's what statements of expectations are about. The important thing is that the people who have to live with it have a very active role to play in actually drawing it together. Because if you don't feel as if it reflects what you think should happen, then the chances are that it won't work terribly well. So Greg and I have been asked to come along, or given the job, and we've accepted that, of coming along to help council try to arrive at this statement of expectations. I emphasise it doesn't just work for the councillors or the mayor or the general manager, it works across the whole organisation. So it should encompass ways of behaving, good methods of behaviour between, for example, the councillors and the staff, the councillors and the general manager and the mayor, and all of these are reciprocal. So it's not just how the general manager behaves to the mayor, it's how the mayor behaves to the general manager, and vice versa, and it goes on from there. So it's really quite a big thing, but there will be a lot of commonality, and I imagine that commonality will include some values that everybody says are important for a good organisation. Things like being able to have confidence in people, being able to believe what people are telling you, having trust, having respect, all of those sorts of things. But I'm not writing it now as we sit here, I'm just saying that's the kind of thing that goes into it. The committee comprises the mayor and the deputy mayor and Councillor Churchill and the general manager, and also myself and Greg Priest. We are working to the idea of having a monthly meeting, and the important thing about that is that it will mean that if we have a meeting of the committee, then the committee can report to council. It can also put that report out to the public. So it's important that other people in the community know what's going on with this. The committee has also agreed that should it require assistance from other parties, for example, the Integrity Commission or the Union or Local Government Association or even another council or something to get some advice, then that person or persons can be brought in to provide advice to the committee. All councillors are allowed to attend meetings as observers if they wish to do so, but they're not compelled to do so if they don't want to. I emphasise also this process is just about the council organisation. There is no room for community input into this. That's not what this is about. This is about a council expectation of how it is going to behave within itself. Don't think I need anything else. Reporting, website, council meetings. I think the important thing is that we do need to have a very careful look at what council is doing now before you can move on to how council might do it better. So that's what Greg and I are involved in at the moment. Basically my role will be to look at the governance side of things, which is the councillors, including the mayor and deputy mayor, but also their relationship with the general manager. Because councils actually only have councillors, the council acting as the elected body, actually only has one employee, and he's right here. And so their relationship with their general manager is extremely important. I'll be dealing with a lot of that stuff, trying to find out what's been going on and what could be done better, and making some suggestions about that. Greg Priest's role will be to look at the operational side of council, which again will involve the general manager and to some extent the mayor, because the mayor has duties there to relay stuff to council. It's important that Greg is able to get a good handle on how council is going in its internal workings, its operational workings, and that in turn will form part of what we know about council and why we hopefully will be able to make some good recommendations about things that could happen that will then lead into the statement of expectations. I think that's about it, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. I think you've summarised that well. Thank you. Okay, so moving into item 3. Under Regulation 25, the Local Government Meeting Procedures Regulation 2015, I hereby declare that the Council is now acting as a planning authority under the provisions of the Land Use Planning and Approvals Act 1993 for Section 3 of the agenda. Could I have a motion, please?
That the council now acts as a planning authority at 229.
Somebody to second that, please. Councillor Pye. All those in favour? Unanimous, thank you. Item 3.1, CA 2019/290, 24 Cooks Court, Swansea. Could I have a recommendation, please? A motion, please.
That pursuant to section 57 of the Land Use Planning and Approvals Act 1993 and the Glamorgan Spring Bay Interim Planning Scheme 2015, application DA 2019/290, to construct a single dwelling, carport and secondary driveway at 24 Cooks Court, Swansea, CT 110860/17, be approved with the following conditions 1 through to 9.
Thank you. Somebody to second? Councillor Pye? Open for discussion. No questions for the planner? Okay, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? It's unanimous, thank you. Item 3.2, Councillor Simons, you've declared an interest. Could I have a motion, please? Deputy Mayor?
Pursuant to Section 57 of Land Use Planning and Approvals Act 1993, the Glamorgan Spring Bay Interim Planning Scheme 2015 and Planning Directive Number 6, Development Application DA 2019/265B, to construct a two-storey dwelling plus visitor accommodation unit at 10 Jetty Road, Bishno, CT 157333/1, be refused on the basis that it does not satisfy the performance criteria. So it's D1042P3A2, overshadowing the private open space of a dwelling on an adjoining lot 4 Jetty Road, and D1043P3A4, visual impact caused by the apparent scale, bulk or proportions of the dwelling when viewed from an adjoining lot 4 Jetty Road and 6 Jetty Road.
Thank you. Somebody to second that? Yes. Councillor Browning? Open for discussion. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Unanimous, thank you. I'm just going to refer to page 149, which is a memo, and if council's happy, we could just say that council notes this information.
Yep.
Under page 150, 3.3 DA 2019/2797C Eagle Drive, Bishano. Could I, there is a recommendation on page 158. Oh, sorry, can we get councillor Simons back? Sorry.
I always forget.
Leave the room. Sorry, councillor Simons, I got a bit excited and just kept going.
Condition 1 to 9, I nearly died when I saw all those conditions.
The application was refused. Item 3.3 we're at now, so the recommendations on page 158. Could I have a motion, please?
I have a motion which is different to the recommendation. So pursuant to section 57 of the Land Use Planning and Approvals Act 1993 and Glamorgan Spring Bay Interim Planning Scheme 2015, application DA 2019/279, to construct a single dwelling, outbuilding and second driveway at 7C Eagle Drive, Bishano, CT 172029/17, be refused on the basis that it does not satisfy performance criteria D 10.4.3 P3A4, visual impacts caused by the apparent scale, bulk or proportion of the dwelling when viewed from an adjoining property, which is 1A Wedgetail Court, Bishano.
Yeah. Just see if we can get someone to just say, oh, yeah, I suppose that people can hear what it is. Could you just say it again so people can hear the numbers and we can find it, we can write it so we can see it? Could you read it again? And I'd say again what you'd like to, what your motion is?
Sure.
Just the end bit, refused on the basis of.
D 10.4.3 P3
P3.
A in brackets, lowercase a, and then the numeral 4 in Roman numerals in brackets. Yep.
10.4, 3 P3.
And take out the rest.
Oh, we might need all the rest back in a minute, depends if we get a seconder, so just hold, bear with us there for a moment.
I think there needs to be the words visual impacts. Visual impacts caused by the apparent scale, bulk or proportion of the dwelling when viewed from an adjoining property has to be
just go
included.
slow on that,
Which
please.
is the same words, if I may, Mayor, Ms Higgins, as the previous agenda item. So it's it should have the reasons under that D.4 is the visual impacts caused by the apparent scale.
Just next to this, in there.
Yep.
Page 106.
Visual impacts caused by the apparent scale, comma, bulk or proportion of the dwelling when viewed from an adjoining property.
Everyone caught up there? Talking about there, somebody to second that motion? Deputy Mayor? Okay, open for discussion.
This again. Sorry, can you bring back the motion, please? Sorry, I was.
I have a question for the planner. Whilst I did read this application, obviously, I'm just, what's the level of visual impact that exceeds here.
Very minor. It's on the northeast corner.
What page? Sorry.
Well, page 161 has a site plan. So that corner on the northwest, on the corner of where the roads meet, Wedgetail Circuit and Sea Eagle Drive, where they meet, it's that corner where it's been assessed as being outside the building envelope. But there are no neighbouring properties there that will be impacted.
Through the mayor.
Yeah, hold on a sec. So is that height? Is it height? How much height? Maybe we should have got you to speak to your motion first.
No, that's fine. If I may, Mayor, my understanding is that it's approximately a metre. The height is approximately a metre outside the height
Restriction.
that should be there.
Sorry, I need to find.
It's a bit hard to see in the drawing.
It is.
And I'll come to you, Councillor Browning. I'm just trying to determine what level of height. And just confirming it's the height that you're referring to in respect.
It is.
Yep. Just while we wait also, is the height an issue because of the covenant or because of the height without the covenant?
Probably both. Me, really, in my view, yes.
Through the chair, can we possibly have our planner respond to that?
Here we are, we're waiting, that's what we're waiting for.
That specific part.
Yeah, that's what, I'm waiting for the answer. Well, I haven't found the answer in there. I can't see it in here.
Through the chair, can I ask that our senior contract planner also assist on this one, Mick Purvis?
Thanks. Mr. Purvis?
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You can have a seat, Mr. Purvis, if you wish.
Thank you. If people look at the agenda document on page, where are we, 164, on the top elevation on that page, it is very, very hard to see, but there is actually a line that is shown. I've traced it off in red pen so that it is a bit clearer so you can see. And it's basically that bit above the line. It is a very, very faint shadow on your agenda documents, unfortunately.
It's just that bit of it goes like that. It's just that bit here.
I can't read that, sorry. Not of this document.
Just that point.
Yeah.
So we've got
This okay. Yeah, but then you look at the front of it. There, that's a lot.
You know, but
in height, what it, like it's only a small bit, but in height, how much higher?
I don't have the full documents in front of me to be able to scale it off, but it appears to be approximately 1 metre on that northeastern corner of the dwelling.
So is it only the corner of the dwelling, or is it the whole length of that roof line? Is it like the 15 metres running along 1 metre over,
That's
or?
right.
The height, through you, Madam Mayor, the height envelope under the planning scheme runs along parallel to the ground. So in rough terms, you would have that corner there looking like that, and you would have another line that runs up parallel to the ground line, roughly like that.
So it's sort of half of it or something.
Okay. So above natural ground level you're referring to?
Yes.
Okay, so are we above natural ground level by 1 metre for the full length, or only just a corner?
It's 1 metre on the corner, and then it reduces to nothing, approximately 1.5 metres from that end of the dwelling. Because the line runs up parallel to the ground.
Okay. So do we know, above natural ground level, running along a line, how far we're above, how much the building are we above natural ground level over and above the set without going over height?
Without having the full-scale documents to be able to measure it off, I can only give you an approximation. And it is approximately 1 metre in that corner, and if that wall is... That section of the dwelling appears to be about 10 metres long, which means that by the time the building envelope runs up, it appears that it would be somewhere in that 8.5 to 9 metre length before it disappears off the top of the roof.
Before it comes within the rules?
Yes.
Okay. So about 1 metre for about 9 metres above.
Well, it starts at 1 metre and then it rises up.
Zero.
Oh, it goes higher than 1 metre.
It's my understanding that's the...
Triangle shape.
So the tall edge is 1 metre on that corner,
Yeah.
which is there, and then it reduces up to nothing at about 8.5 to 9 metres from this corner.
So at its highest point,
It's a metre out.
pardon?
It's about a metre out at its highest point.
At its highest point, a metre.
And
Okay.
how high is the, through the mayor, how high is the building? Like,
Again, it's a bit on the information that we have to hand. Each floor is about 2,400 high, making 48, it'd be 5 metres, 5 to 5.5 metres, and the maximum height in the general residential zone is 8.5. In the centre, because the
Okay.
building envelope goes up to 8.5 and then,
So is the only issue here then the covenant matter rather
no,
than...
haven't taken that into account.
No, that's right, you haven't. But is the only issue here related to the covenant rather than it being over height? If the maximum height's 8 metres, you just said, and it's only 5.5.
Well, it's only 8.5 in the middle of the block, and it slopes down to the sides, and it's just that corner on the side where it's 1 metre out.
Over the 8 or over the 5?
No, over whatever point it is on the diagonal from the side to 8.5, at about 5 to 5.5.
If I may, Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Building envelope essentially does this, sits above the ground, and 3 metres above natural ground level it starts sloping in. So what we've got here is something that effectively, if this is the street frontage, sticks up on this corner, and because in this case the natural ground does that, there's about a 1 metre height there outside the building envelope, and then that tapers back to nothing through the rest of the dwelling. Because the building envelope isn't a square box, it's actually it's a shaped 3D form. So this corner here, which is the street corner, is approximately 1 metre higher than the building envelope on that corner, and then it reduces to nothing.
Okay. I think you've helped me.
And through the chair, so when does it actually get back to zero in terms of metres from that front point? How far is that?
If this was that section of the house, it would be at about this point here. So it's about 8.5 to 9 metres back from where the problem starts, or where the discretion starts.
And is there a reason, sorry, Councillor Browning, I will come to you very next. Is there a reason why it had to be built that high at that point?
Through you again, Madam Mayor, one of the frustrations with the planning system
Yes.
is that you don't get to ask why
Why?
it does that. You simply have to deal with the application that's been presented. So
Okay.
we don't get to go there, unfortunately.
Yeah. Councillor Browning?
Through the Mayor, and that's on the corner where there's no, it's all street.
Seagull Drive and Wedgetail Circuit on that point.
Thank you. Can
Yes.
I, the covenants, I'm just really confused about the fact that we have a covenant and yet it's not in our Glamorgan Spring Bay interim planning scheme, or whether it should be, or whether it could be, or, so,
I'll defer.
Well, we can't talk about the planning scheme in general because we only can relate to this particular matter on the table
okay.
at the
Well,
moment.
I mean, why put a covenant on something if it can't be used? That's my comment.
Okay. Do you wish to speak to your...
No, not particularly, Madam Mayor. I like Councillor Browning, I struggle with the covenants and them not being considered. Reading the report, I just felt that this was going to affect the owner behind this property. So my thoughts were that it should be refused for all the reasons that the contract planner's just said. It is going to be higher. It is going to be in front of their building. So in my head, at least, it's going to affect the visual amenity for the owners of the properties in Wedgetail Circuit.
So, can I ask you a question? In your opinion, is the impact of significance level 2 not approve this application?
Short or long answer?
Sure.
No.
Bit longer?
So if you turn to page 161 on the agenda, the house behind in Wedgetail Court is roughly shown in outline. And there is a fair distance between that house and the boundary with the subject property. There is also then a full driveway between the boundary of the property and the proposed house. The house itself doesn't come closer than that to the boundary and the house that we're talking about, the adjoining house. And the land generally slopes downwards towards Sea Eagle Drive. So under the terms in the planning scheme, which set out on page 156, the reduction in sunlight is likely to be very minimal, and I think there's some shadow diagrams there about that. The overshadowing of private open space of a dwelling on an adjoining lot is also likely to be minimal. Overshadowing of adjoining vacant lots is minimal, and the visual impacts caused by the apparent scale, bulk or proportions of the dwelling when viewed from an adjoining lot. Being a performance criteria, it is somewhat subjective. But I think that the distance between these two buildings and the limited nature of the verticalness of this particular dwelling, combined with the fact the land slopes down towards Sea Eagle Drive, means that I wouldn't be able, as a planner, I wouldn't be able to support refusal on performance criterion A, Roman numeral 4, particularly when you consider that western elevation actually is within the building envelope.
The setback was fine, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, on that edge, yes.
Say is 38 years ago I was told that the house that was built next door to me that was going to be a metre higher wouldn't affect me. I can tell you for 38 years it has.
Okay. Any further questions?
Something with the planners, can I
Yeah,
just show
sure.
Robin something? That would be about the scale of it, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
That's outside the
It's a bit
envelope.
hard to,
Without the, but it'd be close to that because there's not much on the eastern side. And most of it's on the northern face.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay, if there's no further questions, councillor Simon?
Well, I've just drawn a piece in the plan document that probably shows it might be a little bit easier to understand the piece that's outside the envelope if you want to look at it. It's just the shaded part there, with a metre at one end and down to 0. So that's the piece of roof line that's outside the envelope.
Did you want to have a look?
Oh, thank you.
That's the roof line.
Switched, let's see. And Sea Eagle Drive is to the east. I just wanted to just rectify, thank you. So,
Sure, the plan.
Sea Eagle East.
Okay, pass councillor Simon's agenda pack. Okay,
Help a little bit.
okay, so no further questions? So just to be clear, the motion is to refuse the application that's currently on the table. So I'll put that motion. All those in favour of refusal? Councillor Arnold, Deputy Mayor Woods, against? Councillor Browning, Pike, myself and Councillor Simons. So that is lost. Somebody like to move a motion? Councillor Browning?
That pursuant to Section 57 of the Land Use Planning and Approvals Act 1993 and the Glamorgan Spring Bay Interim Planning Scheme 2015, application DA 2019/279 to construct a single dwelling outbuilding and secondary drive at 7 Sea Eagle Drive, Bishno, CT 172029/17 be approved with the following conditions 1 through to 9.
Just confirming you meant second driveway, not secondary, didn't you?
I
You
did
meant
mean second
Good.
driveway,
Okay,
yeah.
somebody to second that motion, please. Councillor Pike. Any questions? Yes, councillor Pike.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor, to Mr. Bevilacqua. We've just recommended that with the 9 conditions. How can you explain to me how we are going to monitor those 9 conditions? What does the council have to help us there?
after the permit has been through the mayor, after the permit has been issued, the applicant then has to apply for a building permit, and these conditions are checked off against the application for building when it comes in.
Thank you. Now I understand. Thanks very much.
Through the mayor, could I ask Ms. Bevilacqua a question? Will the titles have got a covenant on them? Will that be taken into consideration when the planning approval is given?
Not for planning approval.
No, not for planning.
Not the planning authority. Our advice to the planning authority is that they ought not take the covenant into account
Mhm.
at the planning stage.
And would that be a civil matter for the,
As I understand it,
Applicants?
yes.
okay. Thank you.
If I may,
Mayor?
Jenny.
To Ms Bevilacqua, just to follow on for that, what's the point of a covenants? If the land's got a covenants on it, what is the point of having a covenants if we're not going to take it into consideration?
That's heading into legal territory that isn't my area. And I think there's a valid point there, but the current situation is that the planning authority can't take it into account, and it's a civil matter.
And the advice received by Council's two lawyers, which was sent out to us earlier today, was that we shouldn't. And I agree that it's probably not the place to debate law when none of us are lawyers. I think there will be more to come out about that from my conversations today with other general managers in other councils. Probably one decent case law matter would bring it out for all councils to have a position, because some councils do it one way and others do it another way. So we probably need to get some consistency, but maybe this will be the one that brings it out. I don't know. Okay, no further comment. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Councillor Browning, Pike, Wisby and Simons. Against? Councillor Arnold and Deputy Mayor Woods. And motion's carried. Under Regulation 25, the Local Government Meeting Procedures Regulation 2015, the Chairperson hereby declares that the Council is no longer acting as a planning authority under the provisions of the Land Use Planning and Approvals Act 1993, was Section 3 of the agenda. Could I have a motion, please? Councillor Browning.
Council no longer act as a planning authority at 3 o'clock.
And somebody to second. Councillor Arnold. All those in favour? It's unanimous, thank you. Okay, public question time. Would you mind giving Mrs. Kath Anderton is it in the middle? Well, people can't hear on the recording, Mrs. Anderton. No. You don't need to stand up.
Mayor, councillors, General Manager, my question is regarding traffic and parking within Hickory Street at Trarbunna. Over the peak period, we have had difficulties in doing our shopping, going to the butchers, etc. And would it be feasible for council in the peak period to do an audit and perhaps think about some form of limited parking areas within the IGA and the Colonial Restaurant, and also the Spring Bay Hotel, where there are sometimes campers parked there for more than 2 or 3 days, which is really unfair to the management of the hotel. So that's my number one. My number two is the consideration of a disability park within Vickery Street for disabled parking. We have 1/4 of an hour parking space at the butcher's, one outside, half hour outside the chemist, but no disability within that community area. Thank you.
Wonderful idea, Mrs. Anderson. I think I've noticed it's very difficult to get to the supermarket and the butcher shop myself, and I've driven down there and seen camper vans parked outside the Spring Bay Hotel, and I thought they wouldn't be very happy because it, you know.
Well, it's taking their business away.
It is. It's very
and the
difficult.
other thing that we had this morning was that a big Tassie line bus pulled up where there is a no parking sign at Colonial. There's of a whole bus full of people, and yes, the driver was asked and he was told
But I think the problem is that it may be an English problem, because all it says is a circle with a cross with a P. Some people from overseas don't understand that. Perhaps that's a problem why people are also parking within no parking zones, because they don't understand the P means. Okay, so the gentleman, will take that on notice and have a think.
We can take that on notice, investigate the situation and report back.
Thank you. It's really quiet today, which is unfortunate. Thanks, Mrs. Anderton. Mr. Andrew Menzies, just at the end there. Thank you.
Mayor and councillors, my question is, Jane Howlett, the member for Prosser, has declined to comment on the Prague Committee proposed management plan for the Orford Sandspit and nearby beaches, citing conflict of interest. I understand her parents own a property at 50 Tasman Highway which adjoins this area, yet I understand that two members of the Prague Committee, John Ryan and Rosemary Wood, both with properties adjoining this area, promoted and voted on this plan. Surely they must have had a conflict of interest and should not have acted this way. Can council please investigate this question and take appropriate action?
Thanks, Mr. Menzies. We'll take that on notice. That's a lot. Could you just hand it to the next gentleman here, please? Mr. Delatore.
Thank you, Mayor. I noted with some interest the unusual lack of a responsible officer listed against agenda item 8.7 for the 17 December 2019 Ordinary Council meeting. That item was titled the Prosser River Mouth Spit Fencing and Signage Proposal. It's been alleged to me that Mayor Wisby, the chair of the committee which the motion related to, wrote the entire report and recommendation in relation to this item, not a council officer. Section 8 of the agenda is reserved for council officer reports requiring a decision, so it would be highly inappropriate for the Mayor to place a report into this section of the agenda, essentially suggesting that it had been authored and proposed by a council officer. Mayor Wisby didn't disclose that she had authored the report during the meeting, and she didn't note any conflict of interest in relation to item 8.7 during that meeting. Given that Regulation 8 of the Local Government Meeting Procedures Regulation states that it's the General Manager's responsibility to prepare the agenda for the council meetings, I suspect he would be aware of the origins of this report and recommendation, and I was wondering whether the General Manager could advise who the author of the report and recommendation for item 8.7 for the December council meeting was.
To answer that, item 8.7, number one, I mainly had a bit of concern about whether we had a quorum in regards to this. I'll just sort of answer that briefly at the start. Effectively had some concerns about a quorum, did an investigation on that one and established that we did have a quorum. The item itself came from the Section 24 Prosser River Advisory Group, and my understanding was that it was supplied to the then executive officer who was filling in that position for an extended time, and that's how the item came to be in the agenda. So I think the source material was largely provided by the Section 24 Prosser River Advisory Group, and I am of the understanding the actual item was done by the acting executive officer at the time.
Thank you, General Manager. Second question. Council has established a Section 24 Special Committee following direction from the Local Government Director with a view to agreeing on a statement of expectations relating to the role of councillors as well as the separation of powers. The committee was established following multiple complaints about the behaviour of the Mayor, made directly to the Director by employees, their union, other councillors and members of the public. I'm of the understanding that the committee is costing ratepayers in excess of $50,000, money which was not budgeted. The union requested to be involved in this committee to represent the interests of employees and were advised that we would not be required to participate. Mayor Wisby, how can employees have any faith in the outcomes of this committee when you've been alleged by multiple complainants of blatantly ignoring the Councillor Code of Conduct as well as the Local Government Act, have ignored the management group's request for mediation with councillors, which was first requested in December 2018, when their union's been excluded from the discussions at this special committee, when members of the committee have been quoted in the media saying that it's about the future and not about recognising the issues of the past, and when you are both the chair of the committee and the reason that the committee needs to be convened to deal with multiple complaints against you.
I'll take that on notice, Mr. Delatorre, but do we have a copy of the meeting procedures for public question times? There are actually 2 questions per person, and there seem to be about 10 in a row there. I've got no idea what those questions even were, so clearly I'm going to take those on notice, but I think we also need to pull out that document in respect to the rules of asking public questions in this period of the meeting. So I will take that on notice, and the rule is 2 questions each. Thank you, as has always been the case. So the next person is Ms. Samantha Batchelor.
Yes. Thank you. So my question is actually for the General Manager. I'm also with the Australian Services Union representing members here working at Council. I understand you've been in the General Manager's role for around 5 months. I'm just wondering if you can provide any numbers on resignations received to date and those which may have cited conduct of Mayor Wisby in those.
Okay, so to the best of my recollection, I believe we've had 4 resignations since my time as the GM. The first one was was actually advised to me in the first week that I started. That individual made some comment about waiting until the permanent General Manager was appointed before he chose to resign. Of the 4, we've had 3 have been senior managers, so that's been the manager planning and compliance. The executive officer was about 4 to 6 weeks later, and most recently we've had the manager works hand in his resignation. As to the reason why these individuals have chosen to resign, I guess that's a matter that sits with them. With the most recent resignation, there was some written reference stating that the individual was unhappy with interference into the operational space. And that's pretty much all I can say about that.
Thank you.
Final question?
I'm permitted to, is that right?
Yeah.
Yep, that'd be great. Through the Mayor. In follow-up to that, I'm interested in instances you're aware of in the similar period around the conduct or concern of council interrupting with employees in their day-to-day business.
We'll take that on notice, thank
Take
you.
it on notice.
Yep, thank you. Okay, so would you mind grabbing the microphone and turning it off, please? So in public question time, we also had a question or several questions from Mrs. Rosemary Wood that have been answered by the General Manager. We've had some questions there from Mr. Wayne Murray, responded to by the General Manager. And that is all. Moving on to item 5.1, information reports. They run from page 178 to 215. And if any councillor has a question on any of those, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Wisby. On page 178, under Council Governance, in 2019, meetings will be held on the 4th. It's just dates are all wrong. So if the dates could be changed to 2020, sorry. And at 2 p.m. Yes, sorry, at 2 p.m.
But this is the report, sorry, this is the report for the previous month, isn't it? This is information reports for closing the 11th of, they close 11 days out from this date of the meeting, so it's really information relative to the month before, so.
Apologies to that. On page 209, the Swanwick Recreation Ground, before Christmas the company contracted to fence the dog exercise yard started on the one at the Swanwick Recreation Ground. The posts are installed and some of the fencing wire. They are currently on leave and will return to complete this one shortly. The yards in the other areas will proceed as well. My question is this a local company that's building these dog exercise areas?
I will take that as a question on notice to confirm that.
Thank you. And also, just a comment, if I may, Mayor, on page 182. First of all, welcome Josie Higgins to the executive officer's role, and to the trainee Eliza Haywood, who started as a trainee on the 6th of January, and my regret to see that Mr Pollard, Works Manager, has resigned. Thank you.
Thank you. Any, Councillor Pike?
Thank you, Mayor. Could I just clarify what page we'll be going through onto these reports, please, just so I don't muck it up?
From 178
Got that.
to 215.
215, so
Anything contained in that
yes,
block?
I've just got 2 pages further, but
We will get to that one at the next agenda item.
okay, so can I...
Like for 217, do you mean?
Yeah, then I can,
that'll
go back,
come
I
on the
can
next
refer back
agenda
then
item.
to the report.
Yes, you can refer back to the
Okay,
report.
that's fine, then I'll
Yeah.
answer it then.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Councillor Browning?
Through the Mayor, on page 208 with the Swansea depot shed, can I just ask through the General Manager, when is this expected to be finished?
I'll provide an update on that as take it on notice.
Yes, Councillor Browning?
And my other question through the Mayor to the General Manager is about the Swansea hub that it's being called at the moment. Do you know if there's a time frame when that's expected to be finished?
I'll come back to you on that as well,
Okay,
Councillor Brown.
thanks.
Any further? So, I have a couple of questions. On page 186, just looking through, there's down nearly bit over halfway, employee on costs actual is 17,000 against a budget of 90. They just seem very low for the value of the
Yeah.
the value of the employee cost compared to the on-cost.
I'm happy to have that checked. I think a factor to it might be that at the moment we're still waiting to appoint some individuals in permanent roles, and I think you'll see that we've got some of our contractor rates are up higher and some of our permanent employee costs are lower.
Yeah, no, I just meant as a percentage of the number, that's all.
Yeah, okay.
It seems very low as a percentage.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
And there it says, down on the dot points at the bottom, it's got number 5, remaining capital grants will be received when council completes its share of costs. Can you expand on what that means?
It basically means that we've got to ensure that we've undertaken our correct level of expenditure before we can claim to get the funding to come through. So effectively it's a one-for-one match, and we've got to make sure, we've got to prove that we have expended a certain amount, and then at certain graduated points we can then claim on the funding.
What grants is it?
Off the top of my head, I don't know what it is, but that's the
No.
general principle that...
No, I understand that
relates.
principle, but I don't understand what grants we have that are
Okay.
running with that principle, that's all.
I'll check that one
If you
out.
could question on notice
Sure,
on that one.
no problems.
And there's on page 189, the relocate cenotaph to the RSL. If we could just be mindful of the word there, we've used the word plaque instead of memorial, and it's caused a certain high level of angst with the RSL that a memorial be referred to as a plaque.
Yeah, okay.
Um,
Yeah, right.
and there's a follow-up email that needs to be addressed in respect to where we're at with that one. On page 208, it says an extension of time on some of the projects, including the dog exercise yard, has been applied for, but I've not received a response yet. Do you know if that's been approved, we're not at risk of losing the money?
I don't believe we're at risk of losing any of the money. Originally, we did get some advice in a blanket sense that that was going to be extended, and then later on it was retracted and said to be in error, so we're actually pursuing that one.
So was that in error?
Effectively what happened was that we received an email from one of the departments saying that all of the grants were going to have an extended time frame, and then later on it was advised to us that that was sent in error and they returned to the original timeframes, which meant that we had to get the extensions applied for rather than just getting a blanket coverage.
And so we've applied for them?
We've definitely applied for them and we're waiting on a reply on it. I only spoke to the manager building, Adrian O'Leary, today about it, chasing up, and he's still pursuing it. We don't think there'll be a problem in getting the extension.
Okay. All right, that's all for me. Any further questions? Okay, so the manager reports are received and noted. So item 6.1 will be the statement of expectation item. Sorry? No, we just note. Receive and note. 6.1, would you like?
Yes, I would like to move that, where am I, sorry? Council resolves that the statement of expectations be a special committee of council under section 24 of the Local Government Act 1993.
Somebody to second that motion? Councillor Browning. Open for discussion. Councillor Hall.
Thank you, Mayor. If we go down this road, does this mean we now invite community representatives to be on the Section 24 committee?
Well, that wasn't the intent, Councillor Pike. The intent was that the original group was 6 people, myself, Deputy Mayor, Councillor Churchill, the General Manager, and the 2 advisors. That was the motion, the original motion of council.
That's right, and we approved that as a special committee, so I'm not sure.
And it needs to be a special committee. Is a section 24. I think there's a section 23, but that can be councillors only. A section 24 is required because there's external people to council on that committee. I.e. the 2 advisors. Okay, that doesn't mean we have to keep inviting people on the committee and open it up to the community. That is a choice of council.
Yes, I understand now. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Could I question the terms of reference? Generally, section 24 has terms of reference, and I've not seen anything.
So the, from memory again, the previous motion of council was that the group would work on terms of reference relative to the group and bring those back to council.
Yes, and if you recall, Mayor, I actually voted against that because I have a problem with the terms of reference being defined by the group themselves. I think the terms of reference should be defined by council. And originally, it was only appointed as a subcommittee under there was no provision within the Act for a subcommittee.
Any further questions or comment? I'll put the motion there for all those. So we've got the motion there. It's that the committee forms as a section 24 committee of council.
No second.
Oh, sorry. We've got the second. Somebody to second that motion, Councillor Browning. Councillor Browning did second it because I've got it written down. Yeah, sorry. Right. So that the committee become a section 24 committee under council. I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Councillor Browning, Wisby, Simons and Deputy Mayor against. Councillor Pike and Councillor Arnold. Motion's carried. item 7.1 is Bendigo Bank opening hours. Councillor Browning?
Could we move to discuss?
Okay, move to discuss, if that's what you'd like to do. On the second, councillor Pike, all those in favour to discuss? Carried unanimous, thank you. Councillor Browning, would you like to?
I've just had a brain freeze. Maybe the motion needs to, I'd just like to put up another motion and then maybe explain myself. Is that the way to do it? No? Just,
It's open for discussion. You can speak now about what you'd like to council to put in.
okay. I'd rather it be 2 days a week, and I don't think that I was on the board of the community bank, and as I remember that if we have we need to make it a bit flexible, because I think the bank needs to be open at the council offices at the same time that it's open in Swansea, so that if there's something that they need to discuss, they can phone up the people at Swansea. So you don't want to have them on like different days, and Swansea's open up on Monday, Thursday, Friday or something. So, and I think something should go in about that to be decided between the general manager and the Swansea Bicheno Community Bank manager.
So you're saying you'd like to see the bank open 2 days a week, and those 2 days will be determined by between the general manager and the manager of the Bendigo Bank, Swansea Bicheno.
Yeah, just because of that reason I stated.
Yep. Okay.
Is it?
Yes, councillor Pike?
Yes, this is to do with the reports. Under page 217, excuse me, staff opinion on retaining the banks, we make a statement there that we only have 2 of council staff members are trained to operate the bank, with one covering for lunch breaks. But if you go back to the reports on 199, I'm seeking clarification from the General Manager through you that Mr O'Leary says there are currently 4 staff members trained. So I'd just like clarification, which is correct. 4, do we have 4 or do we have 2, please?
So, Councillor Pike, to answer that, I know that we had one individual that was trained who's now chosen not to be part of it, who was previously the principal. So I guess that explains the discrepancy of one person. I'm not totally sure why we've got a discrepancy of 2 people. I would tend to be the person who wrote the staff opinion on retaining the bank services, I would say, has got the more current information than the previous report on page 199, although I do understand why there's a discrepancy of 1. I'm not sure why we've got a discrepancy of 2.
Thank you very much.
Any further comment?
Oh no, I'll wait until there is a motion put. Thank you. About the days.
During this period, I personally have got no issue in coming down to 2 days a week. I was quite frankly horrified to see what this agency is costing the ratepayers as a net loss of $44,000 a year. I was completely horrified at that, and this has been, I think it was 10 years, 6 years, 6.5 years this has been going on. So I think we need to have a report back, within the fortnight from the General Manager on the future of the bank, particularly at losses of such significance. It's not core business of council, and I don't think it's appropriate for ratepayers to be subsidising an enterprise such as that, particularly to such a very high level. So I think there'd also need to be a period where you gave people enough time to sort out other banking options, but obviously not too long, particularly with the staff have advised over the time the difficulties in trying to do their council work and banking, and I think the staff comments that I asked for in an email in respect to this matter to you, sort of show how difficult it is to do both. So I think the 2 days a week should happen quickly, but I think also quickly within 14 days I'd like to see a report back to council on the future of this, and I would think most likely it would be phasing away from that within 60 days or 90 days as to what I'm seeing at the moment, because I don't think we should be continuing on with an arrangement that costs ratepayers that amount of money. Okay, so Councillor Browning, did you have a motion?
Yeah, do you want me to read it out? That the Bendigo Bank Agency located at the Glamorgan Spring Bay office in Tribunna will reduce operating days from 5 per week to 2 days, or from 5 days per week to 2 days per week. And to be determined by the General Manager in consultation with the Swansea Bicheno Community Bank Manager, to be effective from the 3rd of the 2nd, 2020.
Sorry, Councillor, what was that date?
The 3rd of the 2nd, 2020. And the General Manager is to provide a report to Council within 14 days on the Bendigo Bank Agency and its future at Glamorgan Spring Bay Council Office, Tribunna. This matter to be placed on the ordinary council meeting agenda of the 25th of the 2nd, 2020. Do you want me to read it, Mayor?
Please.
That the Bendigo Bank Agency located at the Glamorgan Spring Bay office in Tribunna will reduce operating days per week. Operating days from 5 days per week to 2 days per week, to be determined by the General Manager in consultation with the Swansea Bicheno Bank Manager, to be effective the 3rd of February 2020. And the General Manager is to provide a report to Council within 14 days on the Bendigo Bank Agency and its future at the Glamorgan Spring Bay office at Tribunna. This matter is to be placed on the ordinary council meeting agenda on the 25th of February 2020.
Okay, somebody to second that motion, please. Deputy Mayor. Okay, open for discussion. Councillor Pike.
I guess, excuse me again. Excuse me, I'll just take a glass of water. I just have one question through you, Mayor, to the General Manager. Do you believe that the time frame of 14 days to report back is doable?
The issue there is that it's actually not data that's going to come from within the council. It's coming from Suzanne Turner from Bendigo Bank and her group. I'm happy to approach them and ask for that information within that time frame, but I think it's got to be acknowledged it's not actually in my control as to when they supply the information, which it did take a long time to get this information in the first place.
Thank you.
So I'm happy to approach them and give them the opportunity to submit it in that time frame.
Thanks very much.
may recall this information was requested on the, I think it was the 12th or 13th of August in Bicheno, which was, 5 months ago. Is that 5 months ago? Yeah, 5 months ago. Requested to be provided within 2 months of that date. And I think considering the significant losses that ratepayers are, getting, I think a bit of a push along is appropriate here. We can't just keep going with that amount of loss.
I totally agree,
Yeah.
Mayor, thank you. It's just
Yeah.
what the General Manager gave me has clarified that 14-day.
Yeah.
What you can do, as in, we'll push them, that's for my knowledge, and it's better for me to understand,
Yeah,
thank you.
for sure. Okay. Any further comment, Deputy Mayor?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. With the reduction of hours to 2 days a week, the workload in those 2 days is going to be quite significant for the staff. Instead of it being stretched over 5 days, it is now probably going to be 2 full days of staff taking in, making the transactions. So I sort of have a little bit of a problem with it being, just 2 days, not just where it has been now. It's not ideal. None of it's ideal. I get that, but the fact is that it's been there for 6 years or 10 years. The staff have worked, and the people come in periodically, and it's not a big impost. Well, it is an impost on their time, but it's not time that's going to be magnified now by condensing it down to 2 days. I would have preferred 3 if we had to condense it down, but they're just my comments anyway. Thank you.
Okay, no further comment. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Councillor Browning, Pike, Wisby, Simons against. Councillor Arnold, Deputy Mayor Woods, motion's carried.
Excuse me.
Prosser Plains Raw Water Scheme, Councillor Arnold, Deputy Mayor Woods have declared an interest for want of a quorum that this item's going to have to be deferred. There isn't a quorum remaining. Okay, item 7.3, position of the Loo with the View Swansea. There is a recommendation there. Somebody like to move a motion? Deputy Mayor?
I'll move that Council considers all options for the position of the second loo with a view pod and make a decision on where best to install it.
On to second. Councillor Simons, open for discussion.
I'd just like to ask Council to consider option 2. It seems like the most cost-effective way to resolve this. It also seems, from what I've been told, that the architect himself is in agreement with option 2, and it doesn't affect the architectural integrity of his vision, which I think is important because there's been a lot of money spent on design there, and I think it's important we make sure we take full advantage of that. So I think out of the 3 options, for me, option 2 seems to be the best way forward.
Yes, I'd like to concur with Councillor Simons on that.
I don't know if everyone recalls, we did have a workshop on this late last year with Mr O'Leary came in and sat here, and we discussed the issues, and we also discussed the fact that council will be in receipt of $500,000 for boat trailer parking at Swansea. That will need to be need to go out to community consultation about, you know, how to best increase and best utilise the area for boat trailer parking. Where this came together was the fact that potentially this toilet, there was discussion about the potential for the toilet to be able to be moved down more near the boat, where the boat ramp is. So there's a toilet down near the boat ramp and there's a toilet up the top. So it made sense to do the consultation in one go, because the consultation for the boat trailer parking needs to be done, and there's an opportunity to do the consultation for the toilet at the same time. Like, strategically, that makes sense. Then on the 17th of December, and I'll quote here, at the council meeting, and it was at 7 minutes and 50 seconds into the meeting, that one toilet would be moved to the depot, and there will be further discussion and community consultation about the future of both toilets in the new year. Previous to the meeting, the matter was discussed at a workshop about consultation with that toilet location and the boat trailer parking. So, as we all know, and there's been a lot of angst in the community and about these toilets, the location. I know that councillors who live in Swansea have copped a fair bit from them, and from the people up there that aren't happy with them. And I think it would not be appropriate I don't think it would be appropriate to make a decision, for us to sit here today and make a decision when I think it needs to go back out to community. I think the community would be furious if we were to make a decision today on the location of those toilets without going back to them. And that was also after a petition in relation to the not wanting the toilets there. So why we wouldn't go back to the community is beyond me. Councillor Browning?
Yeah, through the Mayor. I've had a lot of people say to me about the effect it's had on the view, even the disabled toilet. So I think putting that toilet right next door to it is not an option for me. I think that deferring it maybe and going out to community and talking to them about what they want. It is a really controversial topic in our town, and that would give all sides a chance to voice their opinions about what they want. So, and I wouldn't like to make a decision about where to put it without talking to people.
Any further comment, Councillor Pike?
Thank you, Mayor. If we did decide to put out a public consultation, or what was the words we used?
Community consultation.
Community consultation. Would it be in the form of a mail out, or would it be the form of a public meeting, or would we envisage that, please?
Yeah. Well,
what do you
it
think?
can be many different things.
Right.
If I think if it was done in respect to the boat trailer parking, and when we've had our community meetings up at Swansea, the community have quite a few ideas about the boat trailer parking, and this is not the first time boat trailer parking's been flagged, and I even think there might be some plans floating around about increasing the boat trailer parking on there.
Right.
So there's already been some work done. How you would take that out would be discussed, and whether or not, to me it just makes sense to put them both out together because they're both the same area, and if you put more boat trailer parking down the bottom, well, one would assume you'd need a toilet to go with it. So, but I think that all can be sorted and I don't think it'll be just a mail out. I think conversations need to be had because there's concerns there too in respect to people's car accesses to their properties that were being blocked by boat trailer parking and so forth. So I think there'd have to be a few on-site conversations, opportunities to speak.
Thank you. I just have one more question. The allocations here over the page on attachment B, the cross comparisons, is that already allocated, these monies? So 80,000 I should say. For option 1, 79,600. I just rounded the figure up.
Yeah.
Is that already? Do we already have that money?
So you'd see on page On the reports,
Oh, sorry, I'll go back again.
Through the chair. I can just advise, we do have the funds to cover all of these options. I think there was, on a previous report I saw that's been modified now, I think it indicated whether we had the full funds available for any of these options.
All right, thank you very much, General Manager, then. That's answered my question.
there is funding in the capital works for this year,
Yes?
for that project. I just can't see it there at the moment, but yeah.
And I think General Manager answered me affirmatively, so thank you.
But I'm just saying, in that sheet, you will find it listed as a project, a funded project.
Thank you very much. I'll revisit that.
Okay, so, no further comment? There's a motion. And the motion is council considers all options for the position of the second loo with a view pod and make a decision on where best to install it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
So put the motion.
but what does that motion actually, council considers all options, what are we gonna do?
Through the mayor, can we add a number 4?
Okay, Deputy Mayor Woods, Deputy Mayor, just hold on a moment please, Deputy Mayor Woods.
Yeah, so council considers all options for the, so it's basically go around the table and find out who wants what.
Okay, so if I put this motion now, what's the motion? What is the,
Well, it would be
Decision.
that council, if you would put that out, let me just think about this for a second. So the motion would be, that's the motion there, so that would almost have to be.
Through the chair, would you care to put forward an amendment to it?
Yeah. Somebody else to move an amendment to that motion.
so where we're at the moment is you could move an amendment, like 1, 2 or 3, or you could put it out to community consultation. That was the items that we've got in front of us here, that we go through the process of consulting with community. That was what come out of the conversation. Councillor Browning?
Through the mayor, could we add a number 4 about deferring to a community consultation? Is it possible to put?
Well, we don't. It's not a matter of adding a number 4. This is a motion. That's the report. So you're. So you could be.
That we defer to community consultation for further investigation in conjunction with the boat trailer parking at Jetty Road, Swansea.
Yep.
Can I ask for some clarity around this? The motion moved by Deputy Mayor Woods, to me, is effectively a motion to discuss, because that's what it's saying, that we consider all the options for the position. But the way I see it, that motion should have been put, the discussion had, and then another motion in relation to the outcome moved and seconded. So, as the
Is that
chair,
what your intention was? Was that your intention?
Yeah, well, it
I
was
asked
considered.
I asked that question.
Yeah, well, it's the motion is the motion considers all options for the position of the second loo with a view pod and make a decision on where it would best be installed.
Okay.
So that's what we've just been discussing. So I would suggest that the motion would now.
So you want me to put that motion, and you're considering that as being as to discuss, which we've just discussed,
Yes.
and then a further motion we put in respect to the matter.
Yes.
Yep, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? It's unanimous, thank you.
Sorry, put my hand. Oh, sorry.
Okay, now a motion on the matter. Does somebody, Councillor Brownie, did you want to put the motion that you spoke of?
Well, I can, yeah, we defer to community consultation and for further investigation in conjunction with.
Hold on, sorry, just for
Oh, sorry.
typing.
In conjunction with the boat trailer parking funding, is it? At Jetty Road, Swansea. Council referred. And for further investigation in conjunction with parking funding at Jetty Road, Swansea. Yep.
Somebody to second?
I'll second that.
Councillor Pike, open for discussion.
I'm still a bit confused, Mayor, through you again. We've had a discussion, yes, and we've looked at reasons why 2 could be an option. We looked at but that next motion to me is asking for what are we going to present to the community? What options are we going to present?
That's the consultation.
The whole 3 or just the 2 we
Ask
discussed?
the community what they would like.
Out of 1, 2 and 3.
Oh, well, we're not sitting here to actually work out a complete community consultation process. We'd go to community consultation in respect to the matter. There might be further discussion as to what options there are.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but we're not going to sit here and work out exactly how we're going to, consult in what way, when the meetings will be, what time of the day.
No.
You know what I mean? There could be other options too, and it could come out of the boat trailer parking.
Right.
Might be a really good location when there's modifications made in respect to that.
Okay.
So it's just to take it to community and get their feedback and ideas.
Okay, that's fine. I think I understand.
Yeah, Councillor Browning?
Through the Mayor, there has been community members suggest other places for the loo with a view. So I think that would all come out in the, consultation process.
Any further comment? Okay, put the motion. All those in favour? Councillor Browning, Pike, Wisby, Deputy Mayor against. Councillor Simon and Councillor Arnold, motions carried. 7.4, could I have a motion, please?
Council re-endorses the Glamorgan Spring Bay Dog Management Policy and declared areas 2014-19 for the next 6 years, with a further review to commence as soon as possible, in line with Section 7, subsection 3 of the Dog Control Act 2000. 2. In accordance with Section 25 of the Dog Control Act 2000, Council will, by public notice, notify the community of A. the date on which the declared areas in the re-endorsed dog policy and the new declared dog areas, exercise areas, take effect, and B. the period during which the declaration remains in force.
Somebody to second that, please. Councillor Simons, open for discussion. Mr General Manager, did any representations received during this?
I don't believe we received any representations in regards to it, to my knowledge, that
Because
I've been
this
made
was-
aware of.
Just put out the consultation for some time.
It was quite some time. I know that the policy was unaltered from its original form, so it was in the same form that we saw it previously. can't add any more than that to it.
So no representations to your knowledge?
Not to my knowledge, I've not been advised of any representations.
Okay. Okay, any further questions?
I just, I thought there might have been some representations, just from people I've spoken to, but a lot of people said they made an effort to write in and make a comment on it.
I've heard the
I'm
same.
happy to take it on board to approach the relevant manager about that because I was not advised of it personally, but I can chase that through.
Sure.
Happy to do that.
That'd be interesting, just
Yep.
have a look.
Well, it's going to be a bit late to have a look at them once we approve it,
Yeah, well,
and that's what we're sitting here to do.
but we are saying, sorry, through you, the Mayor, that for the next years with a further review to commence as soon as possible. Does that allow us to then make a change?
That's
And
correct.
I think we probably need to move and get this locked in and then review it. Is that the case?
That was the intent of this, to reinstate the policy but effectively commence a review of it as soon as possible.
So after the review of the dog management, yeah, then we'll do another review. Okay to proceed. I'm really surprised that there was no representations. It's up to you. So that's the motion. Any further comment? Can we though? Is that appropriate? Because you're pretty confident, both pretty confident that representations.
I've only got anecdotal evidence. I've had people make comment that they were going to.
Yep.
Are you happy to put it through, even though? Well, this application, this report's been written by the manager of natural resources, so I assume that they would have come to us if there were any. So I suppose take it at face value. Yes.
If I may, Mayor, like the first part of the first part of the motion is Council re-endorses the Glamorgan Spring Bay Dog Management Policy and declared area 2014-19 for the next 6 years, with a further review to commence as soon as possible in line with Section 7, subsection 3 of the Dog Control Act. This is a policy which we also do review policies at any given time throughout our 4-year sitting. So I think that once we find out, or once we get the representations, if they are, we can then go in and review it again, and then have it it wouldn't be re-endorsed, it would be endorsed as a different document, different policy.
I'm not sure that we can, actually, because it's a policy under the Act that goes through a whole process to be changed. It's not the same as our other policies. So that's why this is a bit more of a sticking point. But it says here we're going to be reviewing it as soon as possible in line with the changes to the Dog Management Act, so there will be an opportunity though.
Yep.
Okay. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Councillor Browning, Pike, Wisby, Deputy Mayor Woods, Councillor Arnold and Simons. It's unanimous. Visionary Community Development Association 7.5. Could I have a motion, please? Councillor Simons.
The council approves the grant of $500 to the Bicheno Community Development Association Incorporated towards the cost of purchasing 3 hoop bike racks to be installed outside the Bicheno News Agency.
Seconded.
Any discussion? No discussion. Put the motion. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thanks. Cos Bay Half Triathlon. Could I have a motion, please? Councillor Simon.
Now, my motion is a little different to what's here. So it goes, the council approves a grant of $1,500 under the Community Small Grants Program to the Coles Bay Half Triathlon Committee towards the cost of staging the event, plus the provision of 2 by double portable toilets.
Okay, can we have a second that? The Mayor would. Open discussion. Okay, yep, councillor Simons?
I'd just like to, I know we had $1,000 there, but I feel like this is a really important event for Coles Bay and our municipality. I think the economic benefits alone make it worthy of our support. I think the exposure that the East Coast and Glamorgan Spring Bay get from the event is well worthy of our support a little more. And probably above and most of all, from all those reasons, I think the health and well-being aspects of this event and this competition that it brings to our community are immeasurable, really, and I don't think we can put a price on that. The event's been running for 9 years now. The committee's got a good track record of getting a first-rate national event up off the ground, which is great for our municipality, and I think there's a lot of other regions looking at these types of events, so I'm pretty sure it's getting harder and harder for the event organisers to put these events on with the funds they need to run them. So I just feel like as a council we should support this type of event as best we can, and I think an extra $500 isn't a lot of money for the council, but I think it would go a long way towards the event.
Thank you.
I've just got a question, sorry, is there, is this group incorporated, like are they a legal entity or?
Apart from the data that's here, I can't tell you anything more about them than that.
Do you know if they're a legal entity or is it, and it talks in here about a husband and wife, but
I imagine it is. I can't be sure on that, but I doubt you'd be running an event like that unless you're incorporated. So, yeah.
any further comment?
Through the mayor, I was just, did we have a limit on the community small grants? Is it $1,000 or?
Normally.
Normally, okay, so we can go over if.
Can go over.
Right, okay.
I would have supported 1,000. I would have liked to have known, is it a legal entity? You know, a bit more, we don't, it was a bit like the Bicheno Food and Wine Festival, you know. When we got that information, we wanted more information about, you know, entity type and structure and so forth. And I would have gone along with 1,000. I would have preferred to have seen plus the provision of 2x2 portable toilets knocked out, because that's what we're giving our money towards, their cost. We talked about like that festival package previously about having some consistency. But I have got a bit of an issue handing out public money, and I don't even know if they're an entity in their own right or what their structure is, or so I can't support this personally. If there's no further comment, I will put the motion. All those in favour? Councillor Simons, Arnold, Deputy Mayor Pike, and Councillor Pike against, Councillor Browning and myself. That motion's carried at $1,500. Okay, Freycinet Association 7.7. Could I have a motion, please?
Thank you. I'll move that council approves a grant of $1,000 to Freycinet Association Incorporated towards the cost of purchasing an automated external defibrillator AED to be installed at the Coles Bay Convenience Store, General Store, and Post Office, which is situated at 3 Garnet Avenue.
Somebody to second, please. Councillor Simons. Discussion.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. Was this the application that you sent the email through to us today from Philip Pike regarding he'd forwarded this lady or this organisation another one which was half the price, which is installed already around Tribunna and Orford. So do you think they would still need $1,000 when it's half the price? We don't do
Well,
that to everybody else that I don't believe for the defibrillators, so I'm just...
I
So the-
don't know how they think, you
No.
know what I mean, but what I would think
Yes.
is that,
yes, that's what I'm asking.
no, sorry, I know what I'm saying, like, I looked at this and I thought, so what their cost here was 4,000, just over
Yes,
4,000.
that's right.
They're asking council for 1,000. I think they were going to put in 1,000 and then try to get money
Other
elsewhere.
resources.
So, and I think that the $1,600 cost item needed to have the brackets and the this and the that added, so it came to just under 2,000. So at the end of the day, I looked at this, if council were to give 1,000 and the FAI would have put in 1,000, it's a win-win situation. They get a machine for 2,000 and then the other businesses don't need to put in.
Okay, right.
You know,
All right.
they might put another machine at the hall or
Okay,
something.
yep, all
With
right.
that other 2,000, so
Yeah.
I just thought, they've got that option.
Yes. Fine.
Just as an aside to that, through the mayor, it might be worthwhile, through our contacts, with the organisations to actually send that flyer out, because I know that we've paid $4,000 for defibrillators in Bicheno, and haven't actually known about this particular brand that's half the price. So it might be a good, just a mail out, perhaps, as in an email out
Mr. Pike
to the
wouldn't
groups.
mind if anyone wants to share that information. That's why he shared it in the first place, because the price was so significantly
good.
less, and they're a proven machine. It's a machine you want to work when you want it to work, so.
Absolutely. You can save a couple of grand.
Okay, so I'll put the motion, all those in favour? Thank you. Spring Bay Suicide Prevention Network motion, please.
Yes, I'll do that. I'll do that, Mayor, for you. The council approves a grant of $1,000 for the Spring Bay Suicide Prevention Network towards the cost of purchasing 45 live life medical alarms, which will enable the service to be expanded into Swansea, Bicheno and Coles Bay.
I'd second that.
Arnold? Discussion? Browning?
I think it's a really good idea, so I'm right behind it.
The only question I've got, is it enough, well, is it enough money whilst if Dick Smith's offering dollar for dollar, do we give at this point 2,000, because this is going to benefit the whole municipality, and then we'll get an extra 1,000? You know, our 2,000 will be 4,000, and that's a few more. That's the only thing I was thinking.
I'd be happy to
We're more
support
than
that.
halfway.
I would certainly, if I may, Madam Mayor, I had a conversation with one of the coordinators of the Spring Bay Suicide Prevention Network, and she was explaining to me the value of these in terms of the people that currently have them in our communities. So I would certainly support additional funding to get more into the community.
Yeah.
This particular alarm is offering older people, and even not necessarily older people, but people with medical problems, the opportunity to stay in their own home and feel secure and safe. So I would certainly support additional funds for it.
And through the mayor, and also, I mean, it will cost the people who get these alarms money anyway, because
It
I
does.
think there's a quarterly or monthly amount that they have to pay. So this will, rather than having to pay the set-up cost of buying the actual alarm.
Yeah, yeah. I think everyone's very supportive of it. It's just the number, this opportunity to double.
Would you like me to change, I'd be happy to change the motion, Mayor, if you'd like me to. Yes, well, the council now approves a grant of $2,000 to the Spring Bay Suicide Prevention Network.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, put them, yeah.
Oh, sorry, I just had a question. Who distributes them? Might say it in here, but
Who distributes them? Oh, so that's sort of through the Spring Bay Suicide Prevention
Yeah.
Network. They work in coordination
They-
with the doctors
Yes, they do, I was going to say,
Fine.
yeah.
throughout the municipality
Yeah.
to find those in need. Okay, put motion, all those in favour? It's unanimous, thank you. 7.9, could I have a motion, please? Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. That the minutes of the audit panel meeting held on the 5th of December 2019 be received and noted.
Yes.
Somebody second, councillor Browning. Okay, open for discussion. Councillor Browning.
I'd just like to say that it's nice to see something from the audit panel in the minutes. It's really, in the agenda.
Yeah.
I mean, it's good to see what they talk about and
Yeah, as a member of the audit panel, I'd like to congratulate our staff member, Miss Royer, for doing the minutes in such an orderly manner.
Who was that?
Miss Royer.
Oh, yes, okay.
If I may, I just have a question on page 243 on number 7. It says cash flow and budget forecasts. Old Council Chambers contract is still conditional with the title still required. Is that still the status quo?
Yes, I only chased that, through the chair, sorry. I only chased that up this morning, asking if we'd actually received the fund. I think it got held up in the Land Titles Office for some time, but I haven't got an update. I don't think we haven't received the money, I'm pretty sure of that, but we're definitely very keen to do it, so we're chasing it down at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I have a question too. On page 244, it says in red, draft reserves policy available, need to be included in the next council meeting for review.
I think that, so that hasn't happened. We'll have to make sure that happens in the future, immediate future.
So that'll come to the February meeting.
Or say the February one, yeah.
And then 2 down from that is Chris Schroeder, or CS, to contact Wendy to discuss updating risk documents. It says risk documents require updating urgently.
Yeah. Yeah, that hasn't happened also, so I'll have to pursue that one.
Oh, and just one other thing. I had down the old council chamber update on sale, sorry, but the attachment's blurry. Can we just get a better, I know my copy's blurry. Is your copy blurry? Yeah, I found it hard to read. Okay, so I'll put that motion. All those in favour? It's unanimous, thank you. Moving on.
Motion. Thank you. The council fund the installation of the air conditioning unit in the Bicheno paramedic room to the value of $1,900.
Just wait for you to get that up.
Do you want me to go again, Ms Higgins?
just up to you.
Okay. That council fund the installation of the air conditioning unit in the Bicheno paramedic room to the value of $1,900. That's it. Thank you. I'm moving.
Okay, so on to your second, councillor Simons.
Simons?
Any comment? All those in favour? That's unanimous, thank you. Okay, now we have a late item report coming in at 7:11. Could I have a motion, please? So we've already done the absolute majority receives the item, we've done that bit, so There is a recommendation. Councillor Simons? No, this one. That one. Because we've already done that.
Oh, is it? Sorry.
This one, it's the loose one. Sorry.
No, no.
I move that council approves the bitumen sealing of 6 kilometres of Nugent Road from the Tasman Highway, dash 330,000, and the replacement of the Old Coach Road bridge deck at $55,000, comma, as part of Roads to Recovery funding allocation expenditure for the 2019-2020 financial year.
Moved to second. Councillor Clark? I had to interpret.
I was wondering.
Open for discussion. Councillor Browning?
Through the Mayor, I guess to the General Manager, is there a list of other roads? Like, we sort of don't really, are there other roads that we could have looked at? Do you know what I mean? We haven't been given, there must be other roads that could have been on the list that, and I know probably that was the pick of the roads, but it would have been nice to see what other roads were.
Yes, I spoke to the manager at Works, and he advised that the last time we did a complete audit through a consultant was about 3 years ago, and we're about due to do another assessment of the entire sealed network. I think we've got about 200 k's of sealed and 200 k's of unsealed in rough terms. Based upon the manager of Works' opinion, he believes that these are the best ones to target at this point in time.
Oh, sorry, councillor Pike?
You asked for comments, did you?
Yes.
Yeah. I was just going to say, I do concur with the manager's report, particularly on Nugent Road. If you are coming north, that very steep hill and that sharp bend and the bridge at the bottom is a really, really great concern. The other thing is that is the only road, really, that's the shortest way if the road, Tasman Highway, gets closed between Buckland and Richmond Turnoff. We can at least, that's the road we've got, we have to keep it maintained. It's very important, and that's what I want to say on Nugent Road.
So, this money has come as a result of additional, couple of $100,000 additional funds that we got through Roads to Recovery this year.
Correct.
So, so when are we having the road looked at?
May well be. I believe we'll be making that recommendation for the next council meeting, that we consider that reassessment, because we do it on about I understand, a 3-year basis, and I think we're basically up to that time frame. So we need to do that assessment at some point. It'll also probably tie into, once we kick off the asset management plan, I think that'll be part of that as well.
Okay, any further comment? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? It's unanimous, thank you. We have item 8.1, motion notice of motion. Councillor Arnold, would you like to read it?
Thank you. I'll move that council employs a suitably qualified person to assess both the Melbourne Street and Vickery Street Tribunna school crossings to determine their compliance with current Australian standards for school crossings. And 2, that in the event that either or both crossings are assessed as deficient, council takes steps to immediately rectify the deficiency to ensure the safety of students at Tribunna District School.
Can I have a second? Second. Deputy Mayor. Open for discussion. Councillor Simon.
Do we have someone in mind that is suitably qualified? Is there, or perhaps through you, the Mayor, to Chris? Perhaps he might know.
I think we'd have to investigate the options there.
Mm-hmm.
Councillor Pike.
Yes, I was thinking about the suitably qualified person and how much time we'll be envisaging here in a remuneration wise, how what that would impact, please. That was what I was wondering.
The question will need to go to the General Manager.
I'll have to come back with those sorts of information. I don't know off the top of my head who would we even use. So
Yeah.
Councillor Browning?
Through the Mayor, and we did have a discussion from the Manager of Works in a workshop about it, and he said that the crossing was compliant. So, we need to confirm whether it is compliant or not, don't we? So, that's an investigation needs to be looked into. And it's been going on, this discussion's been going on for quite some time.
Yes, if I may, Mayor, it's time it was settled, and settled to ensure the safety of our students. If I did a relatively comprehensive report, I think, and from some of the photos you can see there are some difficulties in relation to it. I would just like council's support to have the matter assessed.
So, to council's knowledge, the crossings are compliant. Mr Pollard, council's works manager, has confirmed on more than one occasion that the crossings are compliant. So, child safety is incredibly important. No one's disputing that, but I have no reason to not think that Mr Pollard's experience in the area, is not there. If an assessment was carried out and they were deemed not to be compliant, if there was an issue, then I'd have no problem in having them assessed against the standards. But whether or not we need to get somebody in to do that's another matter. Do we have that skill already around the kitchen table? But it's not the kitchen table, within the staff that we have already. That's the other point. I'd also like to see to have a conversation with the principal, and I know there's a new principal starting there shortly on this matter, so I think it'd be good to have a conversation with the principal. There could be other things that could be done to reduce traffic in that street. Since the highways were shut, the accesses from the highway was shut. That is the street you go up to go to the doctor. So, and I did send an email out late last year, about October or something, I think it was, to all councillors, to the General Manager, about reassessing the closed streets, because if we opened up one or two of those so people could get through to the doctor in another way, then maybe that's an option too. And the other issue is that I'd like to probably discuss with the principal is the staff parking within the school ground rather than out on Melbourne Street. There is a lack of parking, but there is parking at the gatehouse. To open up some more parking along the street for the people dropping their children off and collecting their children. So I think there's various things that be done. But at the end of the day, the crossings, it's been confirmed that the crossings are compliant. I think the step to do now is to confirm with the new principal, when the new principal comes, about what possible options there are, if there are concerns, how we can get some vehicles off that road, possibly how we can open up some other streets and move vehicles in from another direction and not using Melbourne Street. So I don't support going out to getting that area assessed at this point, but I do support having a conversation with the principal based on the information we've been given.
If I may, this notice of motion came out from a meeting that I had with the school association at which the new principal attended, and he did voice some concerns.
I remember at the workshop, last year, that we did discuss this, and we all around the table recognised there is an element of risk at every school crossing. But again, I reiterate, we don't have any recording of near misses or anything like that, so we can do a risk assessment. But until you actually have how many accidents have we had? I mean, I don't want them to occur, but I'd like some sort of evidence or something to tell us that it really is of high risk and that we need. So that's what we could work with the school on doing as well. If we've got a lollipop man or a lollipop woman or somebody like that helping, you know, I don't have all the answers, but there's a lot of strategies we could do, including Councillor Arnos.
Yeah, yeah, and if it does need to be moved, I've got no issue in supporting moving it, but I think there's some other strategies we should be looking at.
First. Oh, excuse me for speaking earlier.
Yes, yeah.
Through you, the Mayor, I'm happy with the Works Manager's assessment of the crossing, but perhaps it might be prudent to get a second opinion, and perhaps maybe we could word this a little different, that perhaps our General Manager could just look into perhaps what the cost of doing that might be and what we would get for what we spent on that, because it might involve some planning and some changing. Yeah, I don't think a second opinion really hurts in this matter. I'm not sure if Tony's done a written report on it or what he bases his assumption on, that it does meet the standards. So
Oh, I don't think it'd be an assumption. I think it'd be him checking the Australian standards. That's all you can do in Australian standards, is check the standards and ensure that it complies.
yeah, that's probably the case. But have we got that in writing, or are we?
Well,
I'm
I've got
just
it in writing, yeah,
yeah,
that they are not, that they are compliant.
compliant.
So my problem is, you know, if they are compliant, why wouldn't we have the conversation before we expend money? That's, anyway, Deputy Mayor.
If I may, Mayor, when we had the discussions within the budget time, Mr Pollard, Works Manager, actually quoted a figure of $25,000 to move them. And from my memory, he was in support of actually moving them. And the conversations that I've had with the school association, they have serious concerns with regards to the safety. And I don't think we need to be looking at whether we have an accident first or, you know, wait for that to happen. I think we should be proactive in at least supporting the request from the school to move those crossings. I take on board all the road closures and things, making it a little bit different, and the doctor's surgery moving up to where it is. That being said, the safety of the children from Tribunal District School is paramount in this decision.
I just need to clarify that, of course, it's paramount, the safety of children. That was never, ever in question. But the other concern, and this is what went through in the budget workshops, is if the crossing is moved further up the street and cars will then park closer down to the intersection, it could result in a bottleneck down on Vickery Street.
But if I may,
And also about taking away car parks in the wider area and the amount of driveways in that wider area as you go up. And also, the other thing I'd like to speak to the principal about is whether or not the children would be likely to use it if it's further up the way and they have to walk further to cross it and then walk back down the other side to get through the gate.
if I may, isn't that everything that can be looked at during some assessment? And if it means that employing the suitably qualified person is a council employee, well then that's fine. That's the decision of the General Manager. So any assessment will surely take into into consideration all the things that you've just mentioned.
If it's a matter of risk and it's council's responsibility, wouldn't the General Manager just engage somebody anyway to do it?
It's the General Manager's role.
Correct, but that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Why is it
So
therefore
can I ask you a
council
question then,
decision?
Mayor? Why are you arguing against this? I mean, this is just asking for an assessment to be done of the two crossings because it's been raised by the school association. They have major concerns about the safety of their children. Now, everything needs to be assessed there. And that may be the parking, it may be moving the crossing. There's a number of things that can be looked at.
Yeah, I
But it
understand
needs
that,
to be done in
Councillor Arnold, but
Madam
the
Mayor,
works
please,
manager has said-
please allow me to finish, because you are very, very good at interrupting, at telling people when they interrupt you. So please allow me to finish. So I believe that there should be an assessment done that takes into consideration all the matters that you've raised. And I'm just asking for council's support around that, that the general manager will then run that process.
I think it's important that I do care about children's safety, and anyone inferring that I don't is completely inappropriate. The fact is that the works manager has said that they are compliant, and what I'm saying is we could speak to the principal and ask for some other ways potentially to go about this. It could be moving it, it could maybe not, but that's what I'm saying. The advice that we've received as a council is that they are compliant.
Through you, the Mayor,
Sorry,
I totally understand that advice we've received is from within the organisation is saying it is compliant, but there just seems to be a lot of anecdotal evidence that says it's maybe not. We're talking the school saying it's not, and they're a bit concerned about it also. For me, I think an outside set of eyes on it would not be a bad thing, and they can discuss it with the school and work it through with the general manager. So yes, I'm in support of it.
Browning?
Yeah, through the Mayor. Well, I would hope that, you know, a suitably qualified person may be the works manager, and working with
They will be.
the general manager could go through all of this with the costing, and does it need to be moved, and speaking with the principal, and we're not saying that we're actually going to expend money at this stage.
No,
so
exactly.
How do you engage someone if you don't?
could we change the?
Can I just move the motion, please, Mayor? We have had a lot of discussion, and
No,
we've also
no,
had...
there's a question there, actually. The question was just asked, are we going to employ someone? The motion is that council employs a suitably qualified person. The council employs.
Yes.
So that's the answer to Councillor Browning answering your question. I read that as being a yes.
I'll move a procedural motion to have this motion put.
I think. Apologies.
Sorry, can I comment for here?
Yeah, I'm not taking, there's still questions to be had.
I was, through you, Mayor, can I ask Councillor Arnold, on step 2, could we take out ensure the safety of children? We can't ensure the safety of the children. We can do the rest, but we can't ensure their safety, because outside of the 100 metres there onto Vickery Street, they cross every other road on the way home. So I don't think we can ensure their safety even there. You know, 40-hour flashing lights, that's the only thing that I can't, that wording's, if you could look at changing that bit. I don't think we can ensure that. The safety.
That's my motion, Councillor Pike, I'm sorry.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you. So I will put the motion. All those, sorry, did we get somebody to second?
Yeah, me.
Yep, that was you, wasn't it? I didn't write, oh yes, I already wrote it down. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Councillor Pike, Deputy Mayor Woods, Councillor Arnold, Councillor Simons against, Councillor Browning and myself. Motion's carried. Okay, 8.2, Councillor Browning.
That the draft council minute meetings are provided to council within 10 calendar days of the council meeting. And I've put the background down there.
Yeah, we just need someone to second that motion so we can move forward.
Sorry.
Someone to second that motion? Sorry, Deputy Mayor Woods. Sorry, when, I can't see your hand back
Sorry,
there.
I'll go back up here then.
You don't need to go quite that far out, but just probably a little bit further out. I can't see
So
behind me.
through the Mayor, the background's all written down there and it's pretty straightforward, I think. It's a lot to read, 4 days before council meeting to read all the minutes and the agenda and the attachments and all the bits that go with it and you can't read it once. So, and you end up not being able to read it all twice. So I just think it'd really help us if we could have them, and they're all mostly done except for public question time from, and that just needs to be added in, so that was.
Okay, any comment?
Yes. I would support Councillor Browning's motion because it's often difficult to remember what actually happened 4 weeks previously. But I'd like to ask, could we take this opportunity to review the minutes of our meetings as well? Currently, we're moving motions to discuss, but nothing is recorded in the minutes as to the rationale of our decisions. Whilst council is a legislated entity, so corporate governance minute-taking requirements may not be required, but given the predisposition of some for litigation in all manner of areas, a review of our minute-taking just might be long overdue. And I'll cite an example of this is today. An example is the late agenda item for the Section 24 committee today. I voted against it on the basis that there were no terms of reference, but the recording of the minutes would indicate that I voted against the Section 24 committee. And that is not the case. I was keen to have the matter of the subcommittee for the Statement of Expectations process to be formally ratified under the legislation. But I couldn't vote for it because there were no terms of reference. But that's not recorded in the minutes. So what is recorded in the minutes will be that I was against the Section 24 committee, which is quite far from the truth. So if I could just ask that we perhaps consider a review of our minutes of the council meetings as part of this process as well.
So, are you asking to change this motion, or are you
No,
just
not at
saying
all.
going forward at some point?
Going
can we do
forward
that
at
as a
some
separate
time
matter?
in the future, because as I said, we are, in recent meetings, we've had a number of motions to discuss, but there's no rationale for the decisions that come out of those motions to discuss actually recorded. So, yeah, so going forward,
Yeah,
if we
okay,
could.
so you're okay
Yeah,
with this motion?
I'm
right
okay
in front of us now?
with Councillor Browning's motion.
Okay. Just, any other comment? Councillor Simon?
Yeah, I'd just like to say I agree with Councillor Browning's motion, but I would perhaps just like to ask through you, the Mayor, the General Manager, is that practical for the admin to be able to get that out in that time frame?
Yeah, I believe it to be practical, but I might put it across to the new executive officer who's probably going to have to deliver it.
Yeah.
I don't see any problems with that at all. I've done that in previous positions.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you.
May I ask a question? Would it be better if it was 10 working days rather than 10 calendar days? And would Councillor Browning have a problem with that? If it was 10 working days rather than 10 calendar days?
I would hope, I'm probably putting myself out here now, saying that I would get the minutes done within the first week of the meeting, just purely while it's fresh in my mind. So I think calendar days is fine.
Anyway, I'll put, you don't want to speak back on that, do you?
No, it's
No.
gone.
Good.
Skonski.
Okay, so I'll put the motion, all those in favour, in favour unanimous, thank you. Okay, item 9, motion tracking document. Any questions?
No, it's fine.
I've just got one here, on the first page, it's got 26th of March 2019, renaming of Esplanades. Is there an update on that goes back nearly 12 months?
I haven't got an update on it, but I'll get an update for you.
Okay. And the bottom one, policy for users of hall facilities.
I don't think there's been a lot of progress made there.
the top one in respect of the grant, has there been, was that request put forward to request an extension of time for the grant? And
I've asked about that. I don't believe there was any conditions in regards to the timeframe on it. I don't believe an extension is required on that. I think that
actually, it was to change the what the grant was to be used for. Has that letter been? That was part of the motion. No.
no, I don't.
The seaweed odours wants to see how we asked could we use some of the money for a different purpose, but for the same purpose overall. It would be potentially slightly different. We spoke earlier about the bylaws. That's not finished yet.
It's not finished yet.
And the instrument of delegation, 20119.
It was, so that one was progressed to a certain extent, and then just fairly recently I was advised that there's some of the delegations didn't include all my planning requirements, so it looked like we had completed it, but there's actually extra work to do on that still.
Okay, that's it for me. So council will receive the notes, the information contained, and there's no further questions, sorry? No. Receives the notes, information contained within the motion tracking document.
Noted.
Thank you. Questions without notice is next. Okay, moving on to item 11, which is confidential items. So council will now be moving into confidential items just to address the confidential minutes of the last two meetings. So thank you everyone for attending. And could I check that the live streaming and recording the meeting is